Joining me this Sunday is Chris Amoo from The Real Thing. Can you feel the force? You to me are everything. The Real Thing will be performing at the Jazz Cafe in Camden on Friday and Saturday, 23rd and 24th of February. And Chris will also be talking about his journey in the music industry to date. Okay, brilliant. Well, welcome, ladies and gents, to another On the Sofa with yours truly, Esther Austin. As always, I've always loved interviewing Chris, and before him, I had interviewed his brother a couple of times, and it's always a real pleasure because when I interview Chris, I feel as if I'm sitting at the feet of my elders, having the most incredible experience, listening to their stories, and you know, the real thing, Chris, a move from the real thing. They're still going strong, and they're going to be in a town near you soon. Well, in London, I know. So welcome, Chris.
Hi, Esther. Nice to be here. Nice to be here, man.
You
Again,
look well. You're looking well as well, Chris.
I
Well,
don't know how in this weather. I'm African. I don't like this kind of weather, Esther. I normally hibernate in this type of weather, but we're getting ready to start again, for the year. And so I suppose I've got to get out and acclimatize myself.
that's right. Just right. Just top up with your vitamin C and your vitamin D, and that will, you know, tide you by. Tide you by.
I'm old school. A little bit of sunshine is better than any tablets for me. Just give me sunshine, man, and blow the tablets. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, hopefully you'll get a bit of sunshine this year. That's one of your tunes, isn't it? What is
Spreading
it?
through my sunshine.
That's right. You see. And so today, Chris, is a real privilege having you on my show. I've interviewed you several times, and you're doing something new, and it's great that you're still touring yourself. And is it Dave? Excuse me if I
Dave, yes, yes.
Dave. You're still touring and keeping the legacy alive. Now, after all this time, how long has it been that you've been in the industry, and what is the magic? Is it still a magical experience when you get out there and get on stage, Chris?
It's 50 odd years now because, me and Dave, I was still at school when me and Dave actually formed the band. I used to go to a boarding school in Wales. And
Okay.
I was sent there when I was 9 by my mum because my mum and dad were getting divorced. And she wanted me not to become embroiled in it all, which was a great thing because Eddie had been there
Mm.
his childhood. It was all Liverpool people who went to this school in Wales.
Liverpool.
Yeah. And it started off as an evacuation school when the war was on. So a lot of the kids from Liverpool were sent there to get out of the way of the bombing. And basically, it was taken over by obviously the Liverpool Council and that. And then it became more of a school for broken families.
Wow.
So we were all on the same level. Everybody, there was no, he has got this or she's got that or whatever. We were all the same. And I went there when I was 9. I was only meant to be there for one term.
Mm.
I loved it that much there that I stayed for my whole school and career there.
Wow.
And basically, it didn't start to become a hassle till I
Mm.
started to knock round Toxteth with all my old, and we started getting, with girls and things like that. And me and Dave started the group, and so for the last, I would say, term especially, it was a fight to get me back there.
Mm.
And that's when me and Dave formed. So basically,
Yeah.
it's been over 50 years now. And the magic is number one, we weren't put together.
Mm.
We were friends who wanted the same thing and we got together. That's the whole difference. We were never going to do anything else. We were never going to change personnel in the band. We had the three of us, especially before Eddie joined, were all friends, right? So we all grew up together. We were all going to the same youth club. We all
Mm.
wanted the same thing. We all believed in the same bands. We listened to the same music. We wanted to be like them. And basically, thank God we had Eddie there, who was already quite proficient in his playing and songwriting, that he could teach me to knock out a few chords which enabled us to rehearse, and we could get harmonies together. And that's how we started. So the magic is we were never put together. We just came together ourselves. And Dave and I are still together now. We all would be together now if it hadn't been for Ed passing, you know.
And it's interesting because it shows, I mean, you've all in your own way are fundamentally important in terms of the different roles you play and then the
Unbelievable.
harmonizing.
It's
But
unbelievable.
yeah, but the coming together and the staying together. And when you talk, Chris, I just get this sense of honoring. I mean, and just bearing because I know there's lots of groups because I've heard that there's lots of things going on in the background with a lot of groups, and you know, each there are politics and everything, but there are levels of politics.
Yeah.
And when you speak, you can sense that yes, there might have been some politics or politics, but in as a whole, there
Yeah.
has been that there's something that's cemented yourselves, not just as individuals, but also as artists, but also there's an honoring of what you do together. And that really comes through. And then you mentioned Eddie, bless him. Um, you know, Eddie was a character. I had the privilege of interviewing him
Yeah.
several times, and I just loved his vivaciousness and his
Yeah.
honesty and his directness, but his
Absolutely.
love for music and the craft and the art of music, Chris.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were very, very fortunate because, like you say, there was a lot of politics. There always is politics.
Yeah.
But they were kept away from us because we had an unbelievable manager.
Oh, wow.
But understand, we came from nothing. We came from nothing. We couldn't even afford our train fare to go into London. The day You To Be Our Everything became a hit record, I couldn't afford the bus fare from from East Hampstead, where we're staying, West Hampstead, into our manager's office in Carnaby Street. So I walked.
Yeah.
You
There we
know,
go.
lent me the money to buy a hat in Bond Street because we were doing Top of the Pops the next day. You know, so if you understand, we never missed anything because we didn't have anything anyway.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And we had an unbelievable manager who looked out for us. He looked out for us, you know. And of course, we did things wrong. And the second period where all the things came back into the charts was where we learned our lesson and had our fun, 76 to 80s. And then everything went quiet and it was like back to the grindstone and the drawing board. And then all of a sudden in 86, everything started happening again. And that's when it all came together for us. You know, that's when we knew that we had something that we had to treasure.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't treasure it, it doesn't last. It doesn't
Yes.
matter. Well, you can be huge. You can be huge. It means nothing.
Yeah.
You're only as good as your last record. You're only basically as good as how you come across when your public come and see you
Yes.
or hear you. That's all that matters, right? And a lot of people don't realize that, you know, they sort of like we were always a live band, Esther.
Mm.
So our most important thing to me and Dave and the rest of the guys was making sure we had a great live show. We always tried to make sure that we had a show. And it stuck with us because when we work on these festivals and things like that, you've got to be good because these acts, you know, we've worked with Chic and everybody, and these bands are good. And you'd look ridiculous if you weren't of a level going on with them bands like Rolls Royce and things. You'd look ridiculous.
Mm.
So, you know, we had to make sure that all that hard work that we put in has paid off because, as you say, we've been in it a long time. There's a lot of young bands around who want what we've got. They want to get in on the festivals. You know, the ones that came after us that had hits in sort of the 90s and, you know, early 2000s, you know, they want these festivals as well. And, you know, you've got to fight your way.
Yeah.
Believe you me, it ain't easy. It might see me when they just see a load of names on a board, but getting your name on that board is not
Yes,
easy.
the background. Yeah. Because I was you know, I've been following on Shalimar quite a bit and because they've been in the UK quite a lot.
Lovely. Great
And
guy.
they are. And like you said, you know, when you said about getting there, you know, understanding that it's not as always easy as it looks. And you also said something that you've got to you know, you're as good as your last song.
Yeah,
So there's I remember I've interviewed lots of Motown artists or lots of, I would say, the legends and pioneers from the music industry, both on, you know, in the UK and the US. And one key thing that's come out with people or artists from a certain genre or era is this notion and this dedication to constantly perfecting their art, no matter how old they get, constantly perfecting your art, perfecting your moves,
yeah,
perfecting how you look, perfecting. And I think there's something of that missing nowadays where people, and it's
yeah.
no judgment, but there's a sense of I could just step in and step up into, but it's about craft. That's why
Yes,
people come to the festivals to see you.
yeah. I'll be honest with you, Esther. It doesn't come into it with a lot of artists now, and that's not to be facetious towards the artists now. I'm not. It's
Absolutely.
just the way it is. We work with Chic
Mm.
at Wembley, right? And we went there in the afternoon to sound check. And I was just sat out in the auditorium, and they were up on stage doing the sound check, and they were rehearsing a line in Good Times. They must have rehearsed that one line for about 5 minutes until it was perfect. And I mean, perfect. Now, even we don't do that.
Mm.
Even we, we'll have a good sound check and we'll try and make sure things, but that was really, everything's got to be right on that drum beat. If it's slightly off, we do it again. No, this is how we want it. We do it again. And it's there's a difference. I mean, how would you it? Shalimar. Imagine working with him if you'd let your voice go. You'd sound ridiculous, wouldn't you?
Yes, yeah,
You'd
yeah.
sound ridiculous. You can't bluff with these guys. You can't go on and bluff your show.
As well, you're live.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can't bluff. When we used to go on top of the pops, we had to do it. Yeah, right. The way these guys, there's no bluffing. You can't bluff when you work with these people, and it's a real pleasure to
yes,
work with people in that caliber and be able to. It's a pleasure to be able to work with them. You know,
yes.
because
But also,
believe you me, Esther, I've seen some bands that have been working
mm,
with, and they've looked pathetic next to
oh
them.
wow.
They've looked pathetic because they haven't kept up.
Mm,
And when I say kept up, I'm not talking about getting all modern. You do what you do. If you want
mm,
to stay back in the day and just as long as you perform, as long as what you're performing, you're doing it well. It
yeah,
doesn't matter if you still wear flares. It doesn't matter if you still like to do your dance routines or whatever. If that's what you do, that's what you do. But do it well. And then nobody can say anything. All people can say is, well, it's not for me, but Christ, it was good.
yes, absolutely.
You know, yeah. We don't go on thinking that we're going to appeal to 17, 18, 19-year olds, no matter what the songs are.
Mm,
Our aim is that if people come to see us, they'll go, actually, I quite enjoyed that. It's not for me,
yes,
but I quite enjoyed it. That's enough.
yeah.
That's all we want.
And also,
To
isn't it about nostalgia as well, Eddie? Oh gosh, sorry. You
cool.
know, I've done, oh my God, this is the second, you know, sometimes I guess I feel the energy of the artist. I interviewed Shirley Jones from the Jones Girls
Yeah,
on Wednesday. You know, she's lost two of her sisters, but Brenda, she lost Brenda in a road accident, quite a bad road accident in
yeah,
2017. And I remember towards the end of the interview, I called her Brenda. And I said,
yeah,
I do apologize. She goes, that's okay, because I know my sister's around me. But she goes, you've called me Brenda a couple of times. Now, usually I'm very aware if I call a name
yeah,
that's incorrect. But you know,
yeah,
sometimes you feel the energy of the person's spirit around you,
yeah.
if,
I
if
know.
that if that makes sense.
It does make sense because sometimes I'm talking to them, or sometimes I'll say, "Oh, I got a phone Ed about this," you know, things like that. I really miss him when I've got something, I've written something, and I'm pleased with it. I say, "Oh, I'll phone Ed and let him have a listen to this. We can," and then
Mm,
you realize you know. So it's cool. Don't worry. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, yeah. Wow. But he's because he's chiefly there. But it's interesting that it's about nostalgia for the audience as
Yeah.
well. And that's why when you show up the way you do, some might walk away saying, they're not as, but but a lot of people, they're coming to see you because you were part of their life. You were part of their
Yeah.
life journey. You were part of lots of the emotional things that they went through, their ups and downs. Like, yeah, I remember listening to this track when I was going through this and that. And so it's also, you're relatable to them, and they've built their own relationship with you and through your music.
Well, that's why you've got to be very careful with your music, because you're right. A lot of people have grown up with our songs. We got
Mm,
to understand the songs we've grown up with are like You to Me, Can't Get By, Can You Feel the Force and things. Now, they've never been my music,
mm,
really. You know, we were just very lucky and very fortunate that You to Me and Can't Get By were written. And we were the ones who recorded them. And thank God, because we wouldn't have what we got now, you know. But it's never been my music. So when me and Eddie have written, we have to be very, very careful, because we're writing things like Children of the Ghetto.
oh yes, that's a power. Yes.
And even Can You Feel the Force? And they're totally different to You to Me and Can't Get By. So you've got to be different, because you've got to be very careful, because you you don't want to alienate
Yes.
the people who grew up with you liking that part of you.
Mm,
But on the same token, you can't stand still, because
yes.
especially with me and Ed, if we'd have been resigned to just singing the poppier side of the group all these years, we would have packed in a long time ago. And I don't mean because we don't like it. I would mean because it wouldn't challenge us at all. So there wouldn't be that much point, you know?
Yes. Yes.
But
Yes.
with things like Children of the Ghetto, I think that what's happened is when we first wrote them songs and them type of songs, the more heavier side of them, I think they were far ahead of most bands, black bands that were around at the time,
That's
even
right.
though they were coming out after us. They still weren't coming up with things like that, like
Mm,
Children of the Ghetto and things. But I think what's happened, what we found over the years, is that people are actually calling up. They get disappointed when they don't hear Children of the Ghetto now. Because you know what's happened? They've developed as well as they've sort of matured.
mm,
Their choice has become a little, and they've started listening more. And they've actually, I didn't like this but it's really,
mm,
you know, and basically, that's why we have to be very, very careful. We have to stay within certain parameters. We could just go in, Esther, and do a totally real heavy
mm,
or come jazzy type show. It'd be the easiest thing in the world for me.
mm.
Honestly, it really would be the easiest thing for me to do. But you'd have no audience, because our audience, isn't it? And the music business is quite a snobby business. It is. It always has been. And that's why Children of the Ghetto was never given its due back in the day, because it was too heavy for the real thing audience at that time.
Mm,
And the people who were into the more jazzier, funky type stuff we can't get this. This is the real thing. We can't put that in our collection. Don't be silly, do you know? And it
deep.
wasn't until Philip Bailey and Courtney Pine and all them started covering it that people started listening to our version properly and going, hang on a minute. Oh, hang on a minute. This is, you know? So it's like, I think it's all part of the real thing career.
Mm,
We've trod that line. We could have had a lot more hits, Esther. If we'd have really wanted to go
mm.
down that route, believe you me, we could have had it by just sticking to You to Me and sticking to that formula. We'd have had 5 or 6 more big hits, and then that would have been it. But you know, we've had 6 more huge hits.
Mm.
But we wouldn't. Number one, we wouldn't be here now. but we probably have a lot more money in the bank.
But maybe you're more recognized as well, and people value you for what you've done.
Yeah,
I'm realizing that there are levels to having everything, what we class as success. Success is different things to different people. But I guess because you've stayed within your lane and
yeah,
outside of the box as well, you're an entity of your own, and people value that because I'm recognizing the benefits of valuing. When we value something, then we
yes,
will we will stand by and we will walk with. That's what um, your audience wants from you.
yeah.
Um, and you spoke about Children of the Ghetto. I remember a couple of years ago when you sent me, you did a remix of that. And I
Hmm.
think it was just after, if you put me right if I'm wrong, but it was either just after Eddie died. And
Yes.
when I got that remix, I was like, whoa, because I felt everything in that song. I
Hmm.
felt, because I know you were speaking not just about the children in the ghetto and the experience that you spoke about, because that was a real life experience you were
Hmm.
expressing, but then just after losing your brother. And I think I'd emailed you back and said, whoa.
Hmm.
So I guess when you talked about the track in its previous form being too deep at the time, but you can imagine
Yeah.
people growing up with that, they're now at a more mature stage to resonate with it.
Well, you know, the best thing that happened, one of the nicest things that's happened to us, we did Jules Holland last New Year,
Okay.
the New Year before. Now, me and Eddie had always said we'd love to do that show because number one, I respect him as a musician. Number two, he'd always have great artists on there.
Yes.
We always used to wonder why we'd never done it. Anyway, they came on and we did it. But not only did we do it, Esther, we did 3 songs, which
Mhm.
nobody else did on the program. And when they asked us for the 3 songs, we thought, okay, You To Me, Can't Get By Force. That's what they want, the 3 big ones. And they said, no, no, we want You To Me or Everything and Can't Get By Without You. Or Can You Feel the Force? But we want a new one from your new album because we just put that album out then, A Brand New Day. And we thought, whoa, that's nobody's ever said that to us before.
Wow.
So we thought, that's great, you know. And the phone back said, the one we want you to do is Children of the Ghetto.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first time it's the first time anybody has ever seen the real thing performing Children of the Ghetto on television. Ever. In 40 years.
Whoa.
Ever. We've never been able to release it as a single. We've never been able to do it on television. Ever.
Wow.
And the reason being is because Jules Holland's into jazz.
Mm.
So therefore, that's the track he liked. The track that I sent you, that version, that's the track that he liked off the new album. And that alone was a fantastic compliment to us. And another thing that was a compliment was the film, everything.
Oh, yes, yes.
That was because somebody saw, we wouldn't have got that guy even remotely interested, Simon Sheridan, in doing an in-depth thing on the real thing if it hadn't have been for things like Children of the Ghetto. If all he had to go on was You To Me and Can't Get By,
Mm.
well, he wouldn't have been interested, not even in the slightest interested. But he liked the whole ambience around,
Yes.
and he liked the whole depth of the band. But he also knew that what he was going to sell it on was Children of the Ghetto. That's what he was selling everything on. The opening of it, where they had that guy, that racist,
Mm.
all the riots in there and all that. That's why that he was able to get that off the ground. So there's something to be said for sticking to your guns,
Yes.
because if it's good enough, eventually it comes through.
Children of the ghetto, keep your head to the sky.
Absolutely. And then this leads on to you're going to be performing at the Jazz Cafe
Yeah,
the week after. Uh,
it's only the people who want to see you who come.
go there, yes. Hmm.
But more importantly, you will be amazed at the audience. The audience are at least half really young audience. And it's gotten that way since that film. Because when that film come out, you wouldn't believe the demand for our album, 4 from 8.
Excellent.
That's the album with Children of the Ghetto, Stanhope Street, Liverpool 8, with that trilogy on. And I always remember the guy from Sony phoning me up saying, we've got to get the record company to reissue it. And they wouldn't reissue it because they'd put out a best of album.
Mm.
Which, in all fairness, was a fantastic, it's one of the best ofs. Well, it is the best of album that anyone's ever done on us. And it had good tracks on it, 30 tracks, and everything was expensive, a lovely cover. It didn't look cheap or anything like that. But when 4 from 8 sitting at number 1 in the R&B chart, you think that there'd be interest.
Yes.
To release it. They owned it. They owned all our products, BMG, right? You think that there'd be somebody in there to go, hang on a minute, this is caught on this.
Yeah.
That film, this is caught on. And we had the same problem back in the day. They would not release that track. And it's the same now. Same now, I said. And it was number 1. It was sitting at number 1 on the R&B chart.
Wow. Wow.
You know?
And I mean, I could talk to you forever. We do this all the time, Chris, don't we? But how have you managed your disappointments and moving forward, hoping to see you at the Jazz Cafe and, for those who are, avid, your avid fans, they'll be down there supporting yourselves. And it's wonderful that, because I saw you 2 years ago, was it were you at Fairfield Hall or was it
Yes,
at
Fairfield, yeah.
Fairfield Hall? Yeah. And, especially when you came on with a couple of songs and your voice just went bam, I'm like, wow. But I mean, how have you managed your disappointments? And I guess that might be a silly question because from what I've heard from our conversation, you just know who you are, you know what your music's about.
Mhm.
And whatever disappointments come, you just know. And once you know yourself and that's part of the battle.
Yeah. Disappointments. Well,
If you see them as
most
disappointment.
of this business is disappointment.
Mm.
Because every artist, I would say, I've always got ulterior. They always want to put out the most creative material. And one thing I've learned, and one thing we all learn when people are going on about, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Your most creative material is never the most commercial, ever. And unless you've got the luxury of being a Stevie Wonder, where they will go out and buy your album and gradually get to like the heavier stuff, you just got to take the disappointment of knowing. But what's fantastic now is people knock social media, but we've got a platform. So if I feel that strongly about something like Children of the Ghetto, I put it on the platform. If only 5,000 people listen to it, it's still 5,000 more than it's sitting on the shelf and
Yes, absolutely.
doing nothing, gathering dust. And who knows, there might be somebody out there who hears it and goes, hang on, this could be, we'll record this. Esther, you don't know the amount of young hip-hop, rap, American, English young bands who have covered parts of Children of the Ghetto. I can't tell you. I was listening one night, I was just going through on Facebook, just put Children of the Ghetto in. I got bored in the end and turned it off.
Wow.
But there was that many people who covered it, who have use "Children of the Ghetto, keep your head to the sky," and then they go into a really nice rap and take it somewhere else, but they'll use that line. They'll keep using that line, and things from it, and it's just unbelievable. So I know that there's still something to come from that.
Yes,
Someday
absolutely.
down the line, there'll be something to come from that.
Mm. Well, Chris, it's always a pleasure talking to you. I mean, even we can sit and do a show around Children of the Ghetto, especially with how people are feeling at this moment in time. I mean, there people are always feeling a certain way, but there's a real intense energy, and people are really in the struggle. You can sense it
Yes,
on a much bigger level. And I
uh,
feel Children of the Ghetto could really speak into those spaces on so many levels because it's
yeah,
not just a song. It's telling something. I mean, all the music that you do tells a story about love and different things, but Children of the Ghetto is for those
yeah.
deep,
You gotta
dark,
have, Esther, you gotta have both. You
yeah.
gotta have the love songs. I absolutely love singing love songs. Honestly, I mean that sincerely. I love it. My favourites are doing ballads. I can't stand most of the up tempo thing. I don't mean I can't stand listening to them. I'm saying I can't stand performing them as much as getting out there and doing a Children of the Ghetto ballad or Raining Through My Sunshine.
Oh,
That,
I love that. Really?
you know. Um, and I love doing them. But there's a time for everything.
Absolutely.
You've got to have everything. You can't just become one of these bands that people want to slit the wrists when they put your records on. You go, oh, come on, he's
Yeah,
right.
it's the same. Yeah,
You
yeah.
want them sometimes to be crying and going, oh, I remember that. That was me back in the, and things like that. You want it. You've got to have it all.
Speaking
In,
into the different emotions, isn't it? You're speaking into the different plethora of emotions that we all experience.
yeah, yeah. And what you have to watch, is that the smart asses, I call them, right? Whenever you do something about love, it's cheesy.
Mm,
What's cheesy about making a smile? What's cheesy about a smile? If something makes you smile and
mm,
something is nice and poppy and makes you feel good when you get up in the morning and you get in the shower and and then late at night you want to put something on that's a bit deeper. I'll just put my jazz on and I just listen and I just it inspires me and I'll come upstairs and I'll go on my instruments and I'll be invigorated. But
mm.
everything. When I had my favorite song of all time is "Lovely Day."
Yeah,
But
feel
I
rhythm.
remember we were on our way down to do Top of the Pops,
Mm.
and I always remember we were asleep and that song came on, and ever since, whenever I heard it, it invigorates me.
Yes.
And that's what we got "Raining Through My Sunshine" from. That's what the inspiration of "Lovely Day" is. "Raining Through My Sunshine," and it just makes you feel so good. And people go on, oh, cheesy. They want the really heavy boom, boom, all that sort of, what I mean? Which is great if you're in a club. Fantastic. Do you know
Mm,
what I mean? If you're sort of with all your mates on the corner with your sort of headphones on and you're all grooving along, that's great.
mhm.
There's a place for that too. But I think too many people, just because something is light and made sort of written just to lift,
Yes. And
people
it's
call
vibration as well, the
yeah,
vibration of the
people
music.
call it cheesy.
Yeah.
That's the danger of the world we're living in now. Innocence
Yeah.
is becoming cheesy, I'm afraid.
Mm-hmm.
It's becoming cheesy. But I'm too old for that now. So as far as I'm concerned, cheesy is cheesy. And if I want to be cheesy in one of my songs, I'll be cheesy. If I want to be deep, I'll play Children of the Ghetto. No problem.
Brilliant.
No
And, and
problem.
and that's the thing about longevity because one of my sons he sort of does research around things and also it's the vibration of music now that's changed. There's a
Yeah.
lot of things in the music and that influences and impacts on our emotions, how we
Mm.
feel, how we perceive life. But we'll leave that for another time,
Eddie
Chris.
wasn't cheesy. Eddie couldn't stand cheese. He couldn't stand it. Eddie was into like the real heavy hip hop stuff and the rap stuff, you know. And
he was direct though with Eddie. Yeah, Eddie was direct.
we're on the way home for the gig, and Eddie's driving at 50 miles an hour.
He told you
It's got these drums. It's got these drums on, and I'm going Ed, and then I'll put my lovely day. You know, do you know what I'm saying? That was the difference between me and Ed, you know. But
yeah, he was a go-getter. Well, it's always a pleasure talking to you. And yeah, Children of the Ghetto, and just all your music, like you said, there's just lots of different vibes, and hoping to, see that they're going to be at the Jazz Cafe. So the real thing, ladies and gents, will be at the Jazz Cafe on Friday, the 24th of February. Is that correct?
The 23rd and 24th.
Oh, both days, 23rd and 24th.
Oh, the real thing.
I would take the stars out of the sky for you.
In terms of culture, The Real Thing are one of the most important bands in the history of British music.
The Real Thing were the first all-black British band to have a #1 song in the charts. And what a song it was.
You Can Hear Everything. You can't stop singing that song.
When I first heard You To Me Are Everything by The Real Thing, I thought, that's a hit.
We had the hit record, #1.
I remember being told that it was selling at 25,000 copies a day.
You to me are everything, sing something I can sing, oh baby, oh baby.
If you were black in this country in the 70s, then you basically had a strike against you.
There are places in Liverpool where we couldn't go if we didn't want to hear words like coon and wog. You just stayed away from them places.
Children of the Ghetto.
Children of the Ghetto is a landmark British pop song.
When you listen to the lyrics, we are the lyrics. We are the lyrics of Children of the Ghetto.
In a concrete jungle.
You're doing this sweet, quite light soul pop song, and then you go on to do that?
Filled with misery.
They were, without doubt, one of the best black bands to have come out of the UK.